shining a beacon on the bizarre.
Keep going back and forth.
So your idea is Jizz a Monkey Star.
Yeah. So, he's a cowboy sheriff, and instead of a gun, he's got his cock in his holster.
Right. And where's the monkey coming away?
Well, that's him. He's the monkey. You know what I mean?
Cowboy Monkey Sheriff.
Yeah. Jizz a Monkey Star. That's his name. and he fights. He's got a big lasso and he fights like really rough alligators that are like nasty coward.
And what's he fighting with his cock?
Yeah, he just whips his cock out, you know, there's trouble. He keeps it tucked in his holster and he just whips it out and starts shooting him with jizz.
It's Jizz a Monkey Star.
Yeah, that's his name. Jizz a Monkey Star.
Does he ride on an animal?
Yeah, he rides on a goat. That's got really big full tits and he drags on the floor.
What flavour of milk does the goat tits have?
She's a flavour. It's all jism related, is the whole show.
Alright, that's pretty good. And what does he do with the animals like the alligators he defeats? What does he do with them?
He shoots them with jizz, then he lassos them and drags them to some like hot dog prison cell, you know, like hot dog bars.
Hot dog bars?
Hot dog bars, yeah, it's
Right.
like a cage.
Right, and when they're in the hot dog bars, what do you think we do with them in there?
Lots of damages. I'm only doing my brains hurting now.
Welcome to KRAKEN Cove, the podcast that shines the beacon onto the bizarre. And I'm Mark.
I'm a Benny.
And as you can guess, we didn't have a beginning for today, so we just hit record.
I think it well. I painted that picture. Could be a good show, couldn't it?
What, Jizz a Monkey Star? What channel would we go on, do you think?
5-star, definitely 5.
Yeah, five star. They'd have it.
They'd have it in a
yeah.
fucking snap.
And what'd be best is, what was that TV show that used to show us that was on the DVD? And it was actually animal cruelty. It was
that weird one, Bancoot and James or something.
Yeah, that
was so weird. That chimpanzee and like a fat bulldog that had been brought up together. And that weird man used to just let him out into the streets of Japan and to do errands and little missions for him and that. Really weird show.
This is a show that Ben brought back on a DVD from Thailand, which I didn't want to look at. This is coming out, kid, have a look at this. It involves a monkey and a dog.
It's really strange. I wouldn't mind knowing what's happened to him now all these years later, you know what I mean? Are they dead? Did it turn funny or something? You know,
well, it's a lot of years later, so the dog's obviously dead.
I'm going to look into that for next show.
Yeah. Well, there's another one my kids like, which I think, and this sounds awful, I think it's called something like You're Old Enough.
Oh, God.
and it's basically what it is. It's a Japanese show. And they let little kids go on errands.
Right.
But they just follow them like with a massive camera crew running ahead and filming them. They just basically sort of say, right, off you go shopping. Jesus. And these little kids walk along and they go to shops and they try and buy things. It's really cute in a way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's also sinister.
Yeah.
Because all you can see is these really sort of intense Japanese guys running around trying to film them.
And confused kids. And,
and they sort of think it's cute and funny to all the sort of like people watch it. All I can see is this sinister manufactured oddness.
Yeah. It's an odd country, Japan. We're listening to some bits and pieces with Japan.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how weird it is. But that, you know, you do. It's like Second World War and then post Second World War. It's still like a completely different country,
it's a massive
isn't it?
juxtaposition, isn't
Absolutely.
it? You know, for what it's sort of like, how everything goes and what it stands for, and it's that mix of sort of like the East and the West, in the most kind of fucked up way possible. But I suppose they're doing the best to kind of get it all together.
Absolutely.
You know?
I love to see it. It just sounds so crazy.
Yeah, we will go. Well, what we need to do is we need to unshackle the cove one time, just sort of like pull up anchor, and let the old
drift over to Japan.
Drift to Japan and do a special Japanese maybe a Japanese special would be quite good.
That would be
actually.
good.
Yeah, we could look at the Japanese little myths and monsters, ghosts and spirits.
Those funny vending machines have got.
Yeah, God.
Schoolgirl spit.
I've never got the whole thing with knickers.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't like knicks? Oh, you mean?
No, it's like the old idea, sort of like of like, you know, buying schoolgirls' knickers.
That's especially schoolgirls' knickers.
Or anybody's knickers.
I won't believe that. You know, on the tin it'll be like it's right, pretty girl, but really,
it's a guy called Jeff who's just going through the knickers, isn't it?
That's it. That's what I think. Just get nice and musky. Yep, that'll do.
Jeff's got musky crease. All he does is he does a bit of sort of like searching on the net for a while, and these knickers are too tight on him. Whips them off, pops on another pair, shoves them in a little Kinder Surprise or whatever it is, the sell in, and off they go.
Just men are demented, aren't they? They're absolutely sexually demented. Like those ones that bottle the trumps for men, and it's very strange.
Yeah, we need to move away from that kind of malarkey, don't we? As men, we need to clean up his act a little bit.
Exactly. I know who could do it.
Oh,
Jeez and monkey style. Getting riding into town.
Yeah. First port of call, Hugh Edwards, the newsreader.
Yeah. Hugh? Who?
Put your arse away, you. We don't want to see it.
It's quite a peach.
Let's get casting.
Aye.
First boat out of the harbour today, kid, is sort of a bit fitting in a way, because we're turning around and saying sort of like, oh, come on, blokes, you need to sort yourselves out a bit and be a bit being a bit cleaner. You know?
Yeah, clean your act up.
Have you heard about this teenage boy who's been sexually assaulted? Now it's not a laughing matter in its own sense, you know what I mean? It's a bit bad. He's only 15, poor lad, you know what I mean, right? But this is in Burgess Hill in London, right? A teenage boy was sexually assaulted by 2 women, and he woke up with his clothes removed and injuries to his head and body.
What?
Right? The 15-year-old was walking along Cants Lane in Burgess Hill before heading through a wooded area towards World's End at about 6:15 on the 4th of June, right? He was assaulted and woke up on the floor, police said. Both women were between 18 and 20 years old, one being 6'3" tall with dyed bright red hair.
Wow.
And the other one was 5'9" tall, still tall, with Nike Jordan trainers and had glasses on. She had white blonde hair and spoke with a Merseyside accent.
Oh, God.
What a weird pair.
So they've knocked him on end, stripped him, and had a bit of a feel with him or something?
Well, it looks like they've just kind of cornered him in the woods.
Yeah.
He's known he's been sexually assaulted, so I think they've basically sexually assaulted him in one way or another in the woods,
God.
right? Then they've stripped him and beaten him up or something and dinked him, right? And he's woken up injured.
Jeez, he's been knocked out, hasn't he?
Yeah.
6'3" dyed red hair.
Yeah, and the other one 5'9".
Well, it must be easy to find. You know what I mean? You're going to see her in crowd, aren't you?
Sounds like a job for Jizz and Monkey Stars, I think.
He'll get him riding into town.
Goat with it.
I'll get the hot dogs ready. Lock them up.
Fucking hell. I mean, it's mad, that.
It's disturbing. Poor lad.
Yeah, kind of poor lads as well, but at the same time, I mean, I know you don't want to make light of these sort of things, but to be honest, if somebody said to me I was going to get assaulted by a 6'3" woman who's 18 to 20 years old, a lot of people are paying good money for that.
It's true, in a way. Yeah. I don't get brain about head, though, don't I?
And the thing is, what I feel sorry for this lad is how he's recounting it to coppers, right? And you can tell too, and there'll be bloke coppers, and they'll be casting the glance going, lucky bastard.
Don't know. They're going to stuck a branch up his bum or something. You don't know what's happened here.
We don't know what's happened. So, you know, like I say, I am making light of it. But, you know,
a pair of fucking weirdos are out there.
But I also think this, because it's incredibly unusual and bizarre, this is almost like an abduction case.
Yeah.
This is almost like, you know, one of these things that's happened before where people said, oh, they've seen something particularly bizarre and there's something weird happen. Because there's things in this story that don't quite add up.
Yeah.
The fact he's woken up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's happened to him for him to be unconscious? Now, to actually knock somebody out takes a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be... I mean, I don't know how badly injured he was, But for him to be, and it says here that he's got sort of like he's got injuries to his head, so he's obviously been sort of either battered to sort of like, and he's unconscious. But the fact it's a sexual assault, and a 15-year-old's not going to be carrying any money really. I mean, he might have had some really sort of like dripping clobber on. He might have been sort of like wearing some swag stuff sort of thing.
Stripping me off when he's unconscious. Yeah, it's a bit alienating.
Yeah, it seems a bit abducty to me. Does this? You know, now this happened about 4 or 5 days ago, right? And still no arrests, no other reports.
See,
nothing,
you know, it's not an hard one to find a 6'3" dyed redhead. You know,
Yeah.
that should be like, I know lies.
This is it, people. And then you've got the other one. He's 5'9", white blonde hair, Merseyside accent, Scouser sort of thing. You know, and like black crop top and pink Air Jordans. She's wearing blue shorts as well. So the whole attire, everything about her, and in the London region with a Merseyside accent, the whole thing's high strange, isn't it? And I just, when I read that, I read it through, then I looked up other reports and read them through, and they're all the same report. And something's not right about it. Something's a bit fishy, you know what I mean? And it's either the kid is saying something a bit more, we're not hearing the full story from the kid. Right, I'm not blaming the lad, but I'm saying, you know, we need more information. Or it could be something something strange has occurred to him. You know what I mean?
And he's seen it or remembered it like that in a way.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah.
6'3", that is very abnormal size for a lass, isn't it? You know, that is very tall.
It's very tall for a lass. I mean, I'm 6'3". You know what I mean? I was just over 6'3", but I'm about 6'3" now. So that, and people, you're tall, you know what I mean? But for a lass to actually get this lad, these two sort of duff him over, and the fact he's not been able to flee.
Yeah, in woods as well. You say there's more to the story.
Either more to the story from the boy's perspective, or something weird has genuinely occurred to him, happened to him, you know, and bit of a weird one, isn't it?
No, it's a good one. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on that.
Keep an eye on that
Definitely.
one, you know. But it's like at the same sort of time, though, bloody hell, fire.
We'll go to woods.
Keeping to local news, Arcade. I think that's what we need to do, right? There were a weird occurrence, and it was Christmas Day 2021, right? And this was a man who arrived at Windsor Castle armed with a crossbow to kill the Queen.
Oh, this is mad. I've looked into this a little bit.
Right. So this character, they said, he's Jaswar Singh Chail from Hampshire, right? And that's when he was arrested, Christmas Day 2021, right? And it was during the pandemic. Yeah. And he's been charged with a treason act to make threats to kill and possessing an offensive weapon. And he's previously tried to get close to the royals before the Old Bailey heard, right? Yeah. So this isn't his first offence. Now, he's only 21, so he's been busy, hasn't he? So he's born 2020, and in that time he's already had...
Born 2020?
Oh no, so he's...
really naughty toddler. With a crossbow?
Sorry, born 2000. Toddler with a crossbow. Another good series. It's a 5-star.
He could be like the arch villain, couldn't he?
So he said, sentence the sentencing heard that he'd applied for jobs within the armed forces that could have led to close proximity to the monarch.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
The former supermarket worker demonstrated a wider ideology focused on destroying old empires and creating new ones, including the fictional contexts such as Star Wars. Yeah. So he's Star Wars obsessed, is this kid. Child had described himself as a Sith and Darth Jones.
Yeah, I remember it in that bit. I hope he's got the other bit as well, because there's a real juicy bit to this story.
What, that he confided to his murderous plan to an artificial intelligence companion?
That's the one, dude.
He's basically built himself some sort of like...
Chatbot owl thing,
yeah. So his own sort of like C-3PO or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Something to chat to, right? He also wrote in a journal that if the Queen was unobtainable, he would go for the Prince as a suitable figurehead in an apparent reference to the King Charles. So, I mean, this is just like... He's just so strange. I mean, the thing is, he was dressed in black. He had a mask.
Have you seen the mask?
No, is it mad?
Oh, look it up. It's so worth looking it up.
Is it worth looking it up? Right. Is it like a... What is that? It's like it looks like Owlman or something. Or Mothman.
Oh, there's a close one. When he's got it off, it's a full metal fucking man in the iron mask.
Oh my God! It's like, what's his name in it? Is it a Punisher?
Yeah, either that or even a bit more. What's the one out Lord of the Rings? You know what I mean? He's got a bit of one like that, hasn't he?
I don't know which one.
Proper bad guy.
Sauron.
He wants his ring back.
Excuse me, little man, can I have my ring back?
Yeah,
a bit ring wraithy, a bit Sauron-y, you know what I mean? It's so it's a bit, yeah.
But he must have, he's been hitting something with hammers to make that.
Yeah, he's forged it, hasn't he? In the forge. Maybe there's again, we've got somebody here doing bizarre things, going to extreme lengths, odd occurrences, talking about sort of like sci-fi empires and weird little things. Maybe he's got a little bit more influence going on. Maybe there's a bit more to this than meets the eye.
Could be, couldn't he? I think he's just lost himself in fantasy world. He's obviously got some kind of problems upstairs.
Yeah.
And he's got very lost in that. 'Cause it does seem like years, doesn't it? Like, say he's been trying to get in armed forces or be a beefeater or something just to get close.
Well, he's looked at his Indian heritage, apparently, and these aspects of, like, empire, which is completely fucked him up mentally when he's looked into it. You know, he sort of thinks what the British Empire did.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I can totally understand that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Definitely. It must be shocking being a young lad thinking, right, live in England but from Indian descent. Well, let's have a look at the history. Like, oh my God!
Yeah, this is it. You know what I mean? It's like, because he's you look at sort of empire and things like this. But have you heard of the Van Tulliken brothers?
No.
They're basically two sort of TV doctors, and they're really, 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 really nice guys. Zand and Chris and Zand, I think they're called, right? You know what I mean? I think they're sort of like some sort of Dutch descent as well, but they do great shows, really funny, really light-hearted.
Yeah.
They take part in a lot of like medical experiments as well, not anything harsh.
Yeah.
But say, for example, because the twins, identical twins, they'll sort of say, right, okay, well, let's try to see which one of us can stand putting a hand in cold water for longer.
Yeah.
And one can stand it more than the other.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other two of them as well is more prone to eating loads of fast food, and he puts on a lot of weight.
Right.
And he struggles with this, and the other brother's kind of worried about it because he keeps really fit.
Yeah.
And they have these differences between them, which you sort of think, oh, God, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
So they do these things on the BBC, and they're very interesting guys. But they've recently done a TV show about the history, and they're looking at how fun it all is about their sort of, about their heritage. And they go, oh God, we had this funny uncle, were great, wasn't it? Anyway, spoiler alert, they managed to trace their ancestry back to some of the most influential Dutch slavers who have ever lived.
Oh my God!
And big part of like the East Indies Company and all this sort of thing, and people who were, I think it was like Jamaica and all that kind of area, where they just had these plantations full of slaves, and even to the point where their relative was in charge of all the slave owners. He was the guy who orchestrated
Pimp Daddy
of the slave trade. Yeah.
That's in your blood. That's why you're in that position where you got uni and everything.
Well, you've just said it. You've just said exactly the point I'm trying to make, which is the fact that the guy who's showing him all the information was a black guy.
Oh no! Well, actually,
and the look on their faces when he's getting document after document out, they just look like they've had to sort of like eat a big shit sandwich and smile. Something like going, oh no, our relatives are awful. And you could see as well then the extra penny dropping, the fact that they've all been to medical school, they've all got lots of money, they're really well off, the dad's had a great, all their money and inherited wealth is off slaving.
And it's still there.
Still there. Yeah. Well, it's the repercussions, just the ripples go on. God. So the ripples go on in the fact, now if you were to turn and say to sort of like people in that era, and say, do you know that guy who's in charge of you, that bad guy? Yeah. His family will still be rich in 250 years' time. They will be influential people. People really revere the great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren of that man. And they'll still be rich off your hard work.
Oh, your slavery.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's depressing,
isn't it? But then, all you do then if you're them, every time you look at your bank account, every time you look at your family house, which is sort of like a 7-bedroom detached place in Buckinghamshire or something, every time you look at your heritage and your wealth and your knowledge and your sort of education, everything just comes off the back of the death and slavery of others.
They need to do more tests on twins. Which one's more traumatised? Do you know what I mean? Fast food ones don't give a... he's like, I don't know, I just need another cheeseburger. Not right bothered.
I'm just going to go for a run. I'll come back.
Oh, it's shocking, isn't it?
But the quandary there is, what do you do as far as reparations? It's up to you. If you felt bad about it, do you think, well, I'm going to have to do something here? Because I have heard this. There's somebody else, I've forgotten the public figure, but there's somebody else sort of said, right, I've discovered that my money was from this. They now do things to sort of like create it as reparation. They'll say, right, I'm going to work for this charity, I'm going to help this sort of thing.
It's good that the doctors, because they are giving something back already there. You said pair of them are doctors.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so at least they've always had their hand in helping other people. But I think, you need to really concentrate where you can help. Because if you're a relative and you've got the money, who's are the relatives that haven't got money, from the slave trade? And from that is anything.
Well, I think it's more than money. I think it's actions. Actions are a lot more. So it's a little late because they could actually sort of say, right, we'll give all our money away. It's dropped in the ocean. It's not going to make an impact. Yeah, human actions. Say, for example, they're both doctors. Yeah. Why not go do sort of like service in very small, very poor townships or something somewhere and help the ill there? Yeah. And I think I'd make that a point. Say at least once a month every year, go out and help. Yeah. For free.
Even if it's like training, more people over there to be, hands on.
I think the message there is it's never too late to help and do something different.
That's very true, Archie. Yeah. Wise word.
I'm a very wise man. So I've been looking at local news and things like this, right? Well, it can be. It kind of isn't. It isn't. It is news. It's news stories today. This is something which kind of interests me, and it's really recent. Is this? And it is actually a story that's been almost appeared on KRAKEN Cove now for quite a few weeks.
Oh, all right.
Obviously, we haven't been here for every episode. You know what I mean? So. No, we have been here for every episode. We've not had an episode for every week that we've been doing. Yeah, God, that'd be weird. Come on to those episodes we didn't know about. Something completely different. Pete, R.I.P. and Thor doing their own show.
Yeah, would have been good for Pete.
Yeah, and but this is something that's starting to sort of like gain traction now, and I think this is going to be pretty important. So we're going to cover it today. Now, there's a Harvard physicist called Avi Loeb, right? He's an astrophysicist, is this guy. And he is he's actually like a bit of a big mover in the old sort of like astrophysics sort of like field.
Astrophysics.
So it's physics, but in space.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Space physics. Yeah, your favourite kind of physics. And Harvard, obviously highly influential, really, really respected and this sort of stuff, right? And I've seen before that people have been looking at the sea because an object has hit the sea. An object's come in, hit the sea, a strange trajectory, right? Right? And this happened quite a while back now. This actually occurred. I think it was the meteor was IM-1, and it crashed in 2014, right? And the Defense Department confirmed to NASA in 2022 that the velocity of the meteor does indicate an interstellar trajectory.
Wow.
What that means, it does not come from our solar system.
Wow.
Now, if you remember, we talked before on this about that great big slab sort of thing.
Yeah, that cigar shape.
Yeah, that's another item that doesn't come.
When was that?
That's been in and gone.
Yeah, but
that was about 20. If I'm right, that was about 2020. Was that 2021? Yeah. So it's a lot. This was a lot soon. Before that. But this object wasn't really detected. Right. At first, it was almost like by the time it hit, it was too late. It'd come in, hit, that were it. There is, I know at the moment, I don't know enough about it at the moment, there's another object detected now that is an interstellar object. We have found
these are really rare, aren't they? I've heard. They're like unheard of, aren't they?
The big one that we saw at first there, that we talked about,
yeah,
is called Oumuamua, I think it's called.
So that's the cigar-shaped
That's the
one.
big, long cigar-shaped one, right? That's the one that was spotted that thought, that's absolutely weird, is that right? You know, that's very... And they reckon it's 300 to 3,000 feet long with a thickness which is 35 to 167 metres.
Oh.
So basically it's 3,000 feet long potentially, 548 feet wide.
Wow.
So it's a long, thin, strange shape. The shape of it does not... That's this older object that we're talking about. Or not older, this is an object that's been spotted and seen before. You know, we're aware of this object and it's been sort of catalogued and looked at. And the trajectory of it is not an orbiting item. That's what they're saying. It's come from outside the solar system, so it's on its way through, passing through. It is not affected by any of our gravities. Not the fact
it's the sun as well. It didn't... where it passed, it should have been affected by the sun. You know, it should have speeded up, and it didn't. There should have been trails coming from behind it, and there were nothing. You know what I mean?
This is right. Yeah, because a lot of the time, these things shed particles to show there's water, ice, other materials on it. Heat, other things are sort of like degrade it. The sun on one side will actually sort of break down items on it. This isn't occurring. Also, because of the shape of it, quite often things that are hit or go into space because, say for example, if two moons collide, or large objects collide, this, because the amount of energy involved, quite often involves molten items. So they melt, and then... Here's an example for you, right? The way they used to make bullets, as it were, or shot, was they used to just have molten lead and a very tall tower. Right? So they get molten lead, go up to a very, very, very tall tower, and at the bottom of the tall tower was a big sandpit.
Right.
And they would drop measured amounts of molten lead from the top of a tower. And as this wobbly molten lead would cool, it'd become a perfect sphere.
Wow.
And by the time it hit the sand,
it was hard enough.
It was hard. It was solidified and cooled enough for it to be a perfect sphere, and then they could use... And because it was a measured quantity, they could use that, and it would fit perfectly in a musket.
That's fascinating. I'm really surprised it'd be... I thought it'd be a teardrop, not a...
No, it makes a sphere.
Wow.
Yeah, as the whole item becomes sort of creates... It gets itself forms together. That's what happens.
That is very, very clever.
Yeah, and that is what happens when Earths or moons or planets collide. Molten material is ejected. And as it cools, it becomes roughly spherical. It becomes a roundish shape. This item isn't. This is a long slab. This is a strange piece of...
When I first saw it, I thought, is it travelling,
spinning end over end?
End over end, you know what I mean?
No, it's not. It's not swirling. It's just travelling as if you were... As if you'd fired an arrow, sort of thing. That's the way you kind of think of it. It's got no propulsion. It doesn't seem to be propelling itself. It is travelling at a set speed. You know, so that's a weird item. Anyway, Harvey Loeb, right, from Harvard, he's found another item. The item has hit the sea.
So 2013?
2014. This is the item IM1. They don't know the shape of it. All they know is at that time, this thing hit.
So have they got it on radar or something? How do they know?
That's it. I think they just knew at the time something. It's something weird's coming at a very odd angle. Because quite often, what will have happened for things to hit us, they'll become into our influence, to call it. So the Earth's gravity will get to know. Oh, right, it's there. They'll spin around a few times, go into our orbit a little bit by bit. Then wham, there'll be a certain angular trajectory that it will hit at speed and come in probably quite shallow. That's why you see sort of like loads of sparks and things flying off of them. And when you see meteors and things, they're coming in at a shallow angle. They very rarely come in sort of like straight down at us, because even if they're in the influence of a different planet or the sun's orbit, it wouldn't naturally take it straight at us, because we're all spinning in the same direction, if you like. We're all sort of under the influence of the gravity of one of the main solar body, the sun. And This isn't. This is coming at a weird angle.
God.
It's come shooting straight in, hit the sea off Papua New Guinea. They know this is a weird item. That's how it works out. That's because astrophysicists are very, very clever chaps out there. You know what I mean? We're cleverer than me and you. A pair of lowly lighthouse keepers, right? We're just doing our best. That's all we're doing, right? Anyway, Harvey Loeb had decided this is worth looking at. We have to go find, if you could go up and find that thing, the big item up in space, the big slab, you'd go, wouldn't you?
No, absolutely.
But what's easy, if you know there's one at the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah.
let's go find it.
Wow, that is exciting.
Harvey Loeb has found it.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Now, the issue he's got with this is it's broken up as it's hit the sea, but not in a conventional way. It's melted. Now, the heat as it's come in has turned this entire item molten.
Right.
So as it's kind of come in and hit everything at such speed and power and everything like that, it's broken it into droplets of material.
Wow.
And those droplets in the sea have then cooled.
Yep.
And these are what he's found. These interstellar marbles, as he's referring to them.
Right. How big are they?
Tiny.
Oh,
Absolutely tiny. These things, the spherules are less than a millimetre in size. Right. Which you think, oh shit, that's disappointing. We want big bits.
Yeah.
Right. But I know already from other things, from other reports, have found weird things like what looks like wire. Other strange materials, foreign materials in this area. It's like imagine it's got a trajectory on the seafloor which goes from sort of like left to right as it's travelled when it's been hit. It's grounded in the seafloor. There's ash, there's mess, there's destruction down there. This is what they've detected. They've dredged this area, and this is what they found. These things, right?
So they've actually pulled them out of the sea.
They've pulled them out. He's detecting them, and Harvey Loeb says he believes they might be part of a technological gadget. He doesn't believe they're natural.
Wow.
He thinks they're constructed. He says, so setting out to find fragments of the object, Loeb's team in June dredged the ocean floor with a magnet sled, which picked up mostly volcanic ash. About a week into the expedition, the researchers found the metallic marbles, as Loeb described them, buried inside the ash. The spherules are less than a millimetre in size. He says, we found them concentrated along the path of the meteor, and moreover, the composition may be completely different from solar system objects. We are planning to use electron microscopes to also image them and examine what kind of isotopes they contain, like perhaps radioactive isotopes. Either it's a rock that was made in an environment very different than the solar system because the material strength was tougher than all space rocks, including iron meteorites. Now, just to break off there, have you ever actually touched an iron meteorite or seen one? Iron meteorites, insanely dense. The molecular structure is compacted. It's so heavy.
Wow.
Incredibly heavy.
Yeah.
A really famous one came down in the Walden-Newton Triangle, as it happens. And I've seen a sliver of that particular one. I've actually seen the full meteor as well. It's just this piece of iron which just weighs dozens and dozens of tons because it's so dense. And the crystalline structure within it, because the metals are crystalline structures, they are so dense, totally different, but they're forged in space. But even the power and strength and energy which forges these iron meteorites in space
couldn't have made it that dense.
Couldn't have made these completely different material, right? So while these items are tiny, he's thinking, well, what they found is actually a steel titanium alloy.
Wow.
That's the material they're made of. Now, steel itself is an alloy. That's an iron alloy which has chrome molybdendium or something like that, various other items in it to make steel. That's how steel becomes so strong. You alloy with these other metals and you get strength and suppleness and things like that, and rust-free properties, all sorts of stuff. This steel is alloyed with titanium.
Wow.
So the only way to do that is under strange and unusual sort of pressures and circumstances. So, but other items look like they're being found along these things, And he's thinking this looks less like a meteorite, like a stone thing that's big, or a metal meteorite. This looks more like a machine, potentially.
A machine that's blown up completely, or it's landed, its protective crust has come off and it's drove off.
Well, that's an interesting question. Never thought of it like that. The guesswork here is that it's vaporised on entry into our atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's become almost like a mist of metal.
Yeah.
And that is what we're finding now. But who's to say? It might have had a case on it, it's hit, and that protective case has come off and it's gone trundling away in 2014. And that's why we're seeing so many undersea UFOs, sort of thing. Oh, not UFOs, what they're calling
I can't remember.
Yeah. Not UA, but UA.
USB.
Yeah.
Fucking thing.
Well, undersea spaceships, we'll call them for now, for the sake of argument. So many of these have been discussed. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the source of it.
I tell you what, they don't tell us, do they, till like bloody 10 years after fact. We think, is it happening more? Is there more of these that they're not? They're going to tell us
all the time.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you now. This story about Harvey Loeb. This is big news today.
It?
Yeah, it's big news today. It's happening in the right circles. People are saying, "Holy shit, this might be." But
that bit of physical proof, we can actually put our hands on this. We can put it under a microscope. We can look at it. You know,
This is it. Yeah, and that's the thing now. It's like, people are finding
how did he find it? That's crazy.
He's already known the trajectory in. Well, the reason he's found it is because they know roughly where it hit. And this is what the genius of the man is. And also what I love as well, he's not being ridiculed for going on this mad mission. It's $1.5 million it's cost to get out there with his magnetic sled and detect this. He said, right, if we could go and fly and detect that big one in space, how much would it cost to go there, sort of thing. He's obviously not proposed it himself, part of his suggestion. He'd say, it'd cost us $3 billion. Right, well, one's already hit. How much would it cost to go detect that? $1.5 million is pretty cheap for this kind of detection. And they've got results. They found the material. So, and everyone is saying, shit, this could be it. Nobody's saying, this is an unusual alloy. People are saying, this could be part of an interstellar probe, something that's come from outside of our solar system, and it's come to look at us, we can look at it. This could be contact.
God, that's wowzer, isn't it?
It's absolutely wowzer. But more and more of this stuff is kind of cropping up. We're going to follow this on KRAKEN Cove to see what we can see.
It's exciting times. It's the best times ever for UFOs, isn't it? It's just mad. You can't believe that everybody's just talking so seriously about it.
In the next 2 years, I think people are just going to turn around and say, well, actually, we know they're real now.
Yeah, we just don't know what the fuck they are.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, on Mars now, that they're finding areas where they're thinking, that area... where they chose to put the lander down, the recent sort of like lander, or the most recent lander, where they place that is at bottom of the seabed, or an old lake bed or something. And they know now that they're just thinking, right, the samples that we're taking there, I think they're almost certain that they're going to find fossils or something like that. I think they're 99% certain now that there was life of some sort there. Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to.
God, that's mind-blowing, life.
It kind of is, but it's the little steps that introduce us. If you were to turn around, the first time we went to Mars, if we'd said, right, we've landed, we've found fossils. We'd have lost our tiny minds. They're probably writing on the streets. Now, what they've carefully eased us towards it, bit by bit by bit.
Disclosure.
Yeah, and now they sort of said, well, actually, so we have found fossils, so that's going to confirm it. They're going to say that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, well, actually, we found this probe. We get these little bits that are just going to come in, and it's and even now in the last 2 weeks, it's stopped being fringe. We're going to have to look at this a little bit deeper. I've not had a chance to actually I can only research so much. But there's lots of news coming out at the moment where people are saying, people who were looked at as fringe kooks are being vindicated. They're saying, actually, this person we laughed at for all these years, they're right. They're seeing stuff and finding stuff. So it's literally now the truth is out there. Fox Mulder would be proud of what's going on.
It's incredible, isn't it? What's next? You know what I mean? It's coming, isn't it?
That's it. So I think that hopefully these alloys will be discovered. They'll be perhaps recognised and sort of identified as a foreign, as in an out of our planet, our solar system
Our
material.
solar system. That is mind-bending, and I love it.
That's it. So, and the good thing is, again, I know I've been rattling a lot about sort of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm reading 2010 now.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the little introduction at the start of it, because he wrote the stories and things before moon landings occurred. And I think it was 68 it was written. 69 was the moon landings. And Neil Armstrong actually said to him they'd discussed it on the ship, that saying when they were landing, they were actually going to report live and say, wait a minute, we found a black slab.
Whoa!
We found a monolith.
Just do like wind up.
Yeah, they were going to do a wind up.
Wow.
And then I think people said, don't you dare. This is a very important... Do not drag sci-fi into this, right? But one thing that's very interesting was that because this foreword to the book, it's written, I can't remember when it's written, something very long, about 82 or something. And he was saying that he didn't really know what was going to happen when they're looking at, I think it was Saturn, not Saturn, it was Jupiter. Yeah. When they're looking at Jupiter, because in the book they're saying that there's this massive eye-shaped structure or something on the sort of like on the surface of Jupiter, and in this circle, this weird white eye that's on the surface, there's like a black dot in the middle, and when they get closer and closer to the black dot, it's another monolith.
Wow.
That's in the book, right? And anyway, when they first managed to get a probe, I think it was one of the Voyager probes went up and actually sort of scanned Jupiter, they found a big white eye.
Oh God.
And as they get closer and closer, in the centre was a black dot.
Oh my God.
Now that's all they got to film of it.
Yeah.
And they recorded it, and they got an image of this, and that image was sent to Arthur C. Clarke by Carl Sagan, who's in charge of the programme, right? And all he wrote underneath was, thinking of you.
Oh God. I think sometimes it actually make it real when people imagine, I don't know,
like a cosmic tulpa.
Yeah, it's fucking, it's so, ridiculously fucking bizarre that he wrote it, then it's there.
That's it. It's too close for call, isn't it?
No.
But we're living in exciting times, dude. This is the thing. We're living in exciting times where things are happening, things are occurring. It's the best time for Kraken Cove.
It is, mate. Yeah, hot your stories.
Yeah, so that's another one we're going to watch on.
That's fascinating. I really
we'll
like
keep
that.
On. We will report back of any fresh news.
Yeah.
But if you know anything more about it, if you know any stories out there in the Kraken sphere, contact us at krakencovepodcast@gmail.com. We're at Twitter at Kraken Cove, and we're on Instagram at Kraken Cove Pod. So you can send us a message, send us a DM, anything you see, anything you think we need to be reporting on, or just a bit of feedback would be really good.
It would be. It'd be lovely. Get in touch, guys.
Yeah, that's it. Let's rattle on our kid. Callback time, Arky. So you remember we did talk about time slips the other day. You know what I mean? How there could have been like cosmic portals or the bending of space-time. And I think this could be a thing that could be occurring for quite a while now, the idea that space-time is rippling and bending, things altering and stuff, you know. And that might be the sort of reason why time slips are occurring, you know, and it also shows that sort of like time isn't linear, you know, which is a good thing, and which actually just call back to what we were talking about before about probes, spaceships, things like this. You know, that might be how they're getting from A to B, wrinkle up time and cross over the wrinkles, kind of thing. Now this is one that got sent to me by Jim. He highlighted this one for me, you know what I mean. So I hopped on this little story, and it comes from a metal detecting magazine. And it says, I've always had an interest in history and enjoyed. I haven't got the name of the actual writer of this, so I've just had to take this. This is actually straight off the magazine. Wow. I've had to do run-outs of the magazine here. It says, I've always had an interest in history and enjoyed searching for things. Even when I was a child, I just loved looking for birds' nests, caterpillars, fossils, even bottles on a local Victorian rubbish tip. So I didn't think it came as any surprise to my parents when, In the mid-1970s, I became fascinated watching someone detecting on Blackpool Beach and was mesmerised as the odd penny was found, when a bright, shiny 10pence appeared, and I knew I was hooked.
Yeah.
Consequently, I pestered my parents for a detector for my 12th birthday. A few months later, we visited a shop in Leeds, which had just started selling detectors, and I was soon the proud owner of a Joan Allen BFO detector. I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one. You say he lives at the coast, or you were visiting then or something?
No, I think he's been on his holiday at Blackpool,
right.
you know what I mean? Now, many happy hours detecting in our local parks and fields followed. By the time I reached my late teens, I'd upgraded a couple of times and was now using an Arado 120B. This model was absolutely great, as it had such good depth capabilities. Now, I've got to be careful here, because this was... and it looks like discrimination for the time, so I think that's... good discrimination for the time, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, discrimination on metal detectors is you can dial things to select certain metals.
Right,
so you could only be looking for tin or iron, and then you twist it, you might be looking for gold or silver or whatever like that. You can be like that. The meter would move to the right for non-ferrous metals, iron-based, non-iron-based, so non-ferrous finds, or to the left for ferrous, which is iron-based, right? However, for the majority of the time, the meter needle remained stationary in the middle of the screen, so most of the time the needle's just in the middle, didn't move. One of my favourite sites was in the local woods. I found woods fascinating, as not only they were large, but also had numerous Victorian footpaths and tracks throughout. There was also an old quarry and the remains of an army camp, which had housed Italian POWs in the 1940s, and also there was a small firework factory that had burnt down in the 1950s.
I don't know where that is.
Where?
Well, it's Carvel, isn't it?
Yes. And you can see the woods just through there.
Yeah, it's where that pond is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was there one Saturday afternoon in the 1980s, and this time accompanied by my girlfriend Amanda, who was also interested in history. So he's probably in his 20s now, is this guy, you know what I mean? As we walked down the main track through the woods, we took one of the small footpaths, chatting as we walked. I made the occasional find, and all was quite normal. The sun was shining, the birds singing, even the local church bells were ringing, Carvelly Church. Suddenly the needle on the meter swung to the right, indicating a good signal, so I stopped. Then it swung all the way over to the left, indicating a ferrous signal. Before I could react to this, it swung to the right again, and then seemed to swing on its own, backwards and forwards like a windscreen wiper. Suddenly everything went quiet. I looked at Amanda, and she could see there was something wrong, and I showed her the meter, which continued swinging backward and forth, even when I wasn't moving the searching head. I switched the detector off, thinking there was a fault. However, when I turned it back on, the meter carried on swinging back and forth. Then, suddenly, without warning, everything around us went very quiet. As I said earlier, it was a warm, sunny day. Just previously, the birds had been singing, and a gentle breeze was blowing through the trees. We could hear the noise of local traffic and the church bells ringing, but suddenly it all just seemed to stop. In fact, there was no sound at all, and everything went very still. When I looked down, the needle of the detector was still swinging backwards and forth. It was then that we both started to panic. I realised something was very wrong, and I switched the detector off, grabbed Amanda's hand, and we ran. Now, remember my little meat thing in the woods when I got the feeling and I had to run me and the dog? It's that. I can't say what I was running from, but we both knew something just wasn't right. Knowing the woods like the back of my hand, we ran back towards the main track that runs the entire length of the woods. When we reached the track, it all seemed very different. Its surface looked newer, and I didn't recognise the trees and bushes growing alongside it, so we just kept running. As we ran down the track, we suddenly came across a large Victorian house. I can see it now, with its tall Gothic windows and its half-drawn drapes. It had very soot-blackened walls, and smoke was emanating from its tall chimney. The worrying thing was that I had never seen the house before, and I knew that if we were where I thought we were, then that house shouldn't have been there. I had walked down that lane many times before and had never seen it. As blind panic started to set in, the only sound that we could now hear was our heavy breathing and our hearts beating in our ears. we turned around and dashed back the way we had come, back off the lane, and again up the path to where we had started. That was when the sound returned. We got back to the lane again, and this time it looked as it should. Nevertheless, we didn't stop running until we came to the entrance to the woods, and we had managed to compose ourselves and to caught our breath. We decided to retrace our steps and see what had happened, if the house was still there.
Oh, wow.
That to me is brilliant.
Yeah.
You know? The strange thing was that we could clearly follow our tracks through the grass until we reached the lane, but it now all looked as it should. So we walked further down, and as expected, there was no house to see. I've been back many times, had a look at it, nothing.
God, it's so good that he's got a partner. Normally you're on your own, you're hearing other people alone, but with his partner there as a complete witness.
That's it.
That is
That's a good one. So when I'm talking about this, my fellow KRAKEN Covers, the woods we're talking about are literally half a mile from the cove.
Yeah.
You know, we can virtually see them out the old lighthouse window. You know what I mean?
I think it's a gay cruising spot.
Are you speculating on it?
No, literally, last time I went there, and it was the last
Got
time
bombed.
I went there. Yeah, basically, right, rogering in bushes. I went with kids because I thought it was the same pond that had the snapping turtle you told me about. Is it the same pond?
No, it's not the same pond.
Ain't it? Right.
No, right.
But I remember somehow we knew it was there, and we were saying, "Oh, it's a snapping turtle pond. Let's go see if we can find it."
Yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't there. But with kids, you know, when you're in woods, when you got two young children, I'm on full panther mode. You know what I mean, anything going wrong, I'm going to brace someone to death if they come near me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like that. Yeah.
You know, I'm always well on it. And we walk along as normal, and they hear this rustling in the bush, and I thought, you know, this is getting close. It's going to either pop out just in front of us or pop out behind us. You know what I mean? And I'm like, kids, you know, get kids on the other side, ready to launch something at them. And then these two freaky dudes came out of the bushes. This tiny little Chihuahua dog.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a good 6 footers, if not taller than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Both looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
But there were a couple. There were, you know, obviously like a
any tashes?
No,
right.
Blonde hair, all really super gelled and short and weird, but super blonde eyed. Really tan but gammony kind of pink faces. You know, eyebrows hardly, all manicured.
Oh, right, yeah.
Really plastic surgeoned up, you know what I mean? They look like they've had surgery to look like each other. They look fucking freaky, man.
Yeah.
But where they tottered out at bushes, it were like, I don't know if they were at it or they were waiting or they were like offering in and they were with kids or something. I was like, whoa, you know, just walk straight past them. Hiya, guys. You know what I mean?
You might have an encounter with Nordics.
It could be.
Nordic aliens.
But then I'm going to call them this weird bloke in the cycling shorts, kind of like, where you were like sat on the bench, you know, on his phone, like waiting on like, oh,
no bike.
Yeah, you were like that. I'm like, whoa, where are we here? You know what I mean? So, I don't know, there's no snapping turtle here. Kids, back
Something
in the car.
else is snapping.
Exactly. Well, my arsehole. It was like... so I had weird time slips in them woods.
Okay, hell. Yeah, so well, I mean, I think woods are a bit like that. Liminal spaces out the woods, you know, you get all sorts of stuff goes on in woods. You've got to be a bit careful. But I think that's what attracts us to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they're a bit otherworldly out there, both ancient and strange, you know, and occurrences can occur. So it's like, you know,
might go back with kids and see what
it's still there.
Yeah.
I'd give it a swerve if I were you know.
Those blokes were disturbing though, you know what I mean? They looked so much, they weren't twins or, you know what I mean, but they were like trying to be twins, but they were obviously a couple.
How strange.
It was really odd. Yeah, Nordics, I never thought about that.
Yeah, you maybe had your little early encounter. The time
had a Chihuahua though.
Who's is a Chihuahua? That might have been the Overlord.
Yeah.
Like the Mekon.
Yeah. Hurry up, you two.
Kill him.
Yes. Any little children too.
I kind of misplaced that story at first. I thought I'm going to try and find it, you know what I mean, again, because I only had a really rough copy.
Well, very good story with that.
Good story, I liked it, yeah. But then I sort of thought, oh, well, what I'll do is I'll look for the time slip in Leeds, you know what I mean, that's it. different one popped up.
Wow.
So this was from Secret League, which is quite a good site, actually.
Is those people going to buildings and all that sort of stuff?
I used to watch it all the time. I've not been on for yonks and yonks, but I used to be on there all the time looking for strange things around the local area to sort of nosy at. And this is called Sisters Find Themselves Out of Phase in a UK newspaper shop, right? And this is based in Leeds. They don't say exactly where, but you know. It says, it was 1998 on a summer's morning in Leeds. My sister and I were on our way to work and decided to pop into the paper shop. This shop was built around 1899. My sister was in front of me as we approached the shop door, and through the glass panel I saw a woman browsing at the magazine section, immediately to the left of the door entrance. It looked as though this woman would be in our way as we entered the shop, but as we did, my sister didn't seem to be aware of her. I told my sister, "Oh, mind that woman!" But she carried on walking and went right through her, and the woman faded away.
Oh, wow.
Only then did my sister stop and ask, "What woman?"
Yeah.
I walked ahead of my sister a little further into the shop and turned and told her, "I think I've just seen a spirit. You just walked through this woman." But my sister was adamant she saw no one. We both then looked around the shop. The lights were off, which I thought was odd. It seemed very grey and eerie. It was the kind of atmosphere you'd expect in the early hours of a winter morning, but this was summertime during business hours. Though all the shelves were stocked like they should have been, we were the only people there. My sister mentioned it was cold, and she said she felt something funny was going on, and I felt this too. And I said, "We need to get out of here." But we left the shop but lingered outside the door. I described the woman who had been in modern day dress to my sister, and she asserted there was no one there, the shop was empty. But upon later comparison I found that my sister saw everything I saw apart from the woman. We were outside the shop for a full minute when I asked my sister to come back in with me. When we entered the shop, the lights were on and it was full of customers.
Oh, wow.
School kids, people on their way to work, etc. I had looked more carefully at the people in the store the second time we entered, and I feel I would have seen the woman that my sister had walked through. The usual woman was behind the till, but she was staring at us with her mouth open.
Huh?
My sister says, "What the hell's going on? Where did all these people come from?" I was just in total shock. I walked to the till with my sister and bought some cigarettes. As the woman served us, she looked quite terrified. I'll never forget the look on her face. We left the shop and to this day still can't get our heads around it. We did go back around a month later to ask the woman if she noticed anything odd, but there was a man serving, and my sister said she'd been back a few times and had never seen her again. We did ask the man if anyone had ever mentioned anything about the shop, but I think he thought we were loons. And that's from Mandy.
Because that seems to me like the woman serving is normal, then two girls just materialise in the middle of the shop. That's what
that's it. I think there's two things. I think it could have gone all old and weird, the shop. Or it could be the case that the woman behind the counter was from 1899, and all of a sudden everything had gone modern and weird around there.
Back of Benson and Hedges? What?
Yeah, but I think the fact that reaction of the woman behind the counter is very weird.
It is. That whole story's odd as hell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially seeing the woman and not the sister, then suddenly the whole shop going.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd lose your mind, wouldn't you?
I
That'd be
know.
really hard to...
But more and more, these things, people are talking about these events now. Again, these things perhaps are happening quite a lot more. Or people are just happier to talk about them.
Yeah, true. I think it is better, isn't it, now, rather than it used to be like lose your job, wouldn't you, over something like that?
But that's that thing of walking and suddenly there's another phrase that they're talking about, which apparently on TikTok and another sort of like social media web called the back rooms.
All right.
And what they're saying is sometimes you walk into a place and imagine everything's a movie set and you've accidentally gone behind the movie set and you're seeing the back rooms instead. Right. They're saying this is a phenomenon that a lot of people are experiencing. This out of place, otherworldly, strange experience. You're thinking, what? You just suddenly caught...
Oh, behind the scenes, that's creepy.
It's called the back rooms. And that seems to me, that one there, that seems like the back rooms sort of incident. Definitely. You've walked in when you shouldn't have been in there. They weren't quite ready for you, like the Truman Show or something. And, you know, they hadn't turned on the reality kind of simulator or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Good old TikTok. I told you, Aki. Glasses off. Steady on, old chap.
Drop me kegs. But well, I'm still on TikTok.
You're not missing out on something jiggling. It's good for it's good for bizarre stories. You do get stuff quite quick on it. You know, like Twitter is in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do get the
like with Hugh Edwards' arse?
Yeah. You do get unedited. You know, people are less scared to put it on for some reason, so you get news quicker or weird stories quicker.
Yeah, I suppose they do happen a bit quicker on there. But, you know, I think for me, if I were jumping on all the news stories that came our way, I'd go insane.
Yeah,
I've got to kind of keep it a little bit on the lighter side of or more affirmative.
Yeah,
because
no,
otherwise,
TikTok is just a screaming mess, it really is. But that's why I like it.
Onto a little piece here, right, which it doesn't really particularly go a strange story on its own right, but it kind of links onto things, right, because we're talking about Bigfoot and everything like this. Yeah, we like
Squatch.
We like a bit of Bigfoot and things, right? So, and people think, I don't know, they just don't seem to see it as a very plausible thing that could occur. But on a relatively recent documentary on like sort of Discovery or something like this, and it was David Attenborough asking him about sort of like what creatures, what could be out there, what could be discovered to look for. First thing he's gone for, he says, yes, I think there could be an abominable snowman, there could be a Yeti, there could be Bigfoot. He says, that is a thing I think could be discovered and on thought of or discovered to be real in one way or another, you know, because the evidence is starting to get there, it's all that sort of stuff. And then people sort of say, oh, well, that's, you know, it seems a bit preposterous. And then his argument was, well, no, because only not that long ago there was one of our relatives, Gigantopithecus blacki is the actual species, which is the sort of like Gigantopithecus is a relative of ours. It's on the same sort of linear path as apes and various things like this.
Right.
But it is a more on the path to being humanoid than anything else. But I didn't realise how big Gigantopithecus got. There's a scale of...
Jesus, whips! We're like the size of one of its legs.
Yeah.
Its arms are like nearly twice as long as us.
That's it. Its arms alone, I think, could have been as big as us.
Look at them big murdering paws.
I know. So Gigantopithecus blacki was sort of... It split from the orangutan lineage around 12 million years ago, right? They found fragmentary fossils of the creature, right? Which there could be between 300,000 and 2 million years ago. Oh, really? Which is roughly... We were sort of... Humans, recognisable humans, were walking the earth at that time.
Yeah.
This was something which was around the same thing roughly as us. They reckon it could have been the size and power of it, Gigantopithecus blacki, could have been around the size of a modern polar bear, weighing around 1,000 pounds and standing nearly 10 feet tall on its back legs, which is 3 metres. So they've now found teeth, jawbones, and other parts of it like this, which are sort of like that they're analysing. I think it probably spent most of its time on all fours, though, so it was almost like a gorilla. It will have been moving around in that kind of way. But they also think it could have been, although gorillas are obviously very intelligent, this could be more on a par with us as a species, you know what I mean?
That is mental.
And that's what I find interesting about Gigantopithecus blacki. It's not a question of sort of saying, oh, these Bigfoot Yeti, blah, 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 oh, they're just big mythical beasts. There was a creature that lived like this,
that
looked
fits
like
the
that.
Description of it.
To an exact way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not being able to really get any DNA, it's degraded too much as this sort of stuff. They reckon that DNA now, they reckon it doesn't really last past 10,000 years, so they can't tap into it and get anything. Unless they found a whole one sort of like buried in permafrost or something like this, they're not going to find anything. But no, they just don't reckon they can find it. They drilled into a Gigantopithecus tooth that they got, which was about 1.9 million years old. Right. Again, no joy. They tried to find the root and stuff, you know. But they reckon it was there at the same time as the Homo floresiensis, and the Philippines, Homo luzonensis, both of the little peoples.
Oh,
They're
right.
tiny. But we're all basically related.
Yeah.
We're both exactly we're all of the same lineage.
Yeah.
We are humans filling various niches and things.
Yeah.
You know, hominids is the term we use.
Yeah.
Hominids, filling these various these various niches. And I thought it's really quite an interesting creature.
So when you said orangutan, so is that like really far south in the world where they were home?
True, but what you have to remember is that over millions of years we've travelled, over various land masses in particular kind of ways, and also that the land has changed. So, for example, the UK was part of a common Europe.
Goannaland.
Yeah. Well, it was Doggerland. Weirdly enough. Here you go. Your thing. I can't remember the name of it now.
But already it's just a funny name.
Pangea, sort of like these one of the things. But there's also that was hundreds of millions of years, 40, 50 million years ago. Whatever we were, there was one Pangea was big land, sort of like a land mass.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't. This is a lot more recent, and the land or the world looked pretty much as it does to us now.
Yeah.
Apart from seas with different levels. Especially with ice ages, because obviously what occurs with ice ages is, yes, everything gets covered in ice, but what also happens with ice ages is the ice kind of gathers and rises high. So because the ice is sort of stacking up in some areas, if you like,
sea levels go down.
The sea levels go down in other areas, exactly right. So that's the issue. So when you have big thaws, you have flooding. This is what we're worrying about now, about the ice caps melting. All that stacked up fresh water could end up sort of like diluting the seas and flooding lowland areas. And but the thing I found interesting about Gigantopithecus, and this is why I've got the story, is because they found artefacts in Kent which are, they reckon, about 300,000 years old, right? I don't think these are. Now, this sounds a bit pissy of me to say that archaeologists might have got this wrong. Right? These are stone tools. They found hand axes. I'm going to give you a little look at these hand axes there, right? You see some hand axes?
Oh, yeah.
Hand axes there.
Kind of classic looking, flinty stone looking things.
The issue with is you'll see the guys there got a pair of like tweezers or like a bit like pincer kind of things, yeah?
Oh, you've got me gigs on now, yeah.
Now a hand axe fits in your hand.
Yeah, about that big. Back my hand.
This is about 3 times bigger than that. This is a foot long.
Whoa.
There's his hands.
Oh, yeah.
This stone tool is massive.
Yeah.
Now imagine trying to use a stone tool which is that size, and what use would it be?
Yeah.
Now, what these scientists are saying is they're thinking, oh, well, this could be ceremonial. I've got a really big axe because I'm a really big boy.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. That's the sort of mindset they're thinking could be at play here, right? I'm less inclined to believe that.
Wow.
I'm more inclined to think that you wouldn't go to all that effort to make something of that scale that was of little use. Now, ceremonial axes are very, very important later on. This is something I've been studying, certain axes as well, with my good mate JP. So the ceremonial mace heads, right? Some of these are astonishingly ornate and beautiful. But they're only quite little, and because the ceremonial are of extreme high worth. Same as the Langdale axes, which were actually cut out of the Lake District stone, a very famous blue stone that's up there. And in fact, there's one behind you. There's a little blue stone there.
Oh, yeah.
That is not that one. That one. You pick that up.
Oh,
that is what's called a rough.
Yeah.
That is a hand axe.
Right.
That was made about 4,000 years ago by somebody sort of chipping away to make a little hand axe, and they thought it wasn't quite good enough, so they dropped it and worked on another piece.
Yeah.
They only found the perfect pieces, and the good thing about that is it's got 2 properties. This particular blue stone from that area is it's highly prized. When it's chipped, the pieces are like razors. You could almost shave with them that sharp. Great for what's called flensing, which is taking the skin off of animals.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at it and thinking that.
But that has other use as well. But what they did with us specifically from that area is as they would travel back down, sort of further down south in the Lake District with those stones in the bags, as they stopped off for tea each night and had a chat and built a fire, they'd polish them. So as they went along, these big stones sort of all the way leading out of the Lake District, these big ridges in them, which was these places where they'd stop overnight and share, until eventually these axes almost as smooth as glass.
Jesus.
And they weren't used as necessarily as axes to fight with. They were ceremonial and highly prized, and they were they were traded.
Yeah.
and as such, a ceremonial axe had a lot of worth. So these massive axes potentially could be worth because I've got a massive axe, but you'd also have to carry it around with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't something you might have it on somewhere in your cave, or you might have it in your
You'd have it all smooth as well, wouldn't you? You'd make it really fancy.
Well, then they didn't have the technology to make things quite as smooth, because it's from there a bit further on. The stone axe didn't really change in its sort of like design for a massive amount of years. Many years they just stayed exactly. So something mad like about sort of 20,000 years.
Wow.
They stayed the same. The technology didn't move on.
Right.
And then there was these weird little leaps they suddenly had, where some of these really complex and beautiful axes occurred. Suddenly more detailed items occurred. Now it could be the fact that people have come over from abroad, people have come from a place like Egypt perhaps, or from the continent, and brought really fancy axes. In fact, the bluestone axes I think could be highly prized, because people were coming across from Italy with what's called a jadeite axe. And these, I saw some of these in the Dublin Museum. Superbly beautiful green stone axes, highly polished, glass-like finish, much older than the ones I've just shown. The one I've just shown you. So they think what's happening. The British craftspeople said, "Well, we want our own green axes. It's too expensive or too prized to get from Italy. Where's a stone that's like it?" They've found a similar stone, and they've replicated these highly prized axes. They were still working with stone axes and stone tools, but this was just on the cusp of like the Iron Age sort of thing. We're just about to start making sort of like metals and forging and smelting and things. But these axes of that size, there's no practical use.
Unless it's for a Sasquatch.
Or a Gigantopithecus blackie.
Wow.
Which would be, by other term, Sasquatch.
And plus, they are supposed to be clever, aren't they? Animals use tools already, so it ain't a massive leap of faith to think that it's figured out how to make a basic axe.
Yeah. Oh, the British Sasquatch, the Woodwose.
The Woodwose?
The Woodwose. The Woodwose is our Sasquatch.
Wow.
And this is something that seems to be overlooked all the time. The green man, I think, is the Woodwose. It's the hairy man of the woods is the Woodwose. And in a Ripon Cathedral, carved into the woodwork of Ripon Cathedral, there is a Woodwose. Wow. There is the hairy wooden man sort of thing.
So it could be a direct link to that.
Let me find you a picture. Shall I find you a picture of it?
Yeah. Show us a pic.
So this is the hairy man, which is carved into the Ripon Cathedral.
Wow, he's fully furry, isn't he?
Yeah. And this is the furry man. This could be this is what is thought of as our version of Bigfoot, Woodwose.
God.
And so, but these things are otherwise known as the wild man. You know what I mean? But the Woodwose appears throughout, sort of like various sort of like drawings and artworks and things like this. And this strange sort of character, which is sort of like in amongst. So there's another carving of the hairy man.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's got quite a liney face, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, long beard, so a bit liney, I suppose, but just the thick beard. So that's in the Suffolk Museum. There's another classic one.
Oh, yeah.
Time and time again, the Woodwose, the hairy man, our version of the Yeti or monster or beast or whatever you want to call it. There he was, in amongst it.
Been running around with a bloody axe. That's terrifying.
Absolutely, yeah, this is true. You know what I mean? But it's perhaps he might have been the original, the original Briton. Yeah. He could have been here first all those years ago, and then here we come walking in from Africa, kind of thing. Yeah, not wanting to sound too Brexit, but we've travelled across from as humans travelling to these areas. There could have been older hominids in the area that we don't know.
Little hobbits and
this is it.
What's that one in Hobbit? Isn't there? There's that massive bear-like dude, isn't there?
Bjorn.
Yeah,
that's it. It was and he turned into a bear during the night and things like this. Yeah, I think there was comparisons with him. And in the Hobbit, I think it was one of the most important characters which was knocked out of the film. which was in the book, and possibly the most important character in all of the Lord of the Rings things, was Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, he wasn't in Hobbit, were he? He was in
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah. I always wondered why they knocked him out, because he is a proper godlike character.
That's what it is. He's meant to be God.
Is he?
Yeah, that's what I think. He could be a god or the god or something like that. But almost like as if his time had passed.
Yeah.
And he was sort of disappearing back into legend in his own right.
Yeah.
He was just sort of taking that.
No, it was. Outsin book, he's a fantastic character. And he's right, it's the most impressive character in it, you know what I mean?
Very strange.
Yeah.
His wife sounded fit and
I
all.
know, she did, didn't she? Yeah, I know what you mean. Swinging with Tom. Go on, give a go, Tom. Go on, Benny. Cheers, lad. Yeah, actually, it has been a long episode.
Yeah, it's been a long episode, yeah. We thought better sort of like wind things up. And you do know the next episode is episode 100.
100, we're there, a century.
Yeah, a century, yeah.
Wowzers.
And the best thing is, we've almost got 100 listeners.
It's took us
one
long
for
enough.
every episode.
We're climbing up, Arkid. We're climbing up.
Oh, no.
Help us.
Oh, dear me. You know what I mean? But it's, we do it because we love it.
Exactly.
We do it because we love it. It is good fun, you know what I mean? But I sort of wonder as well sometimes whether sort of, you ever worry about if you weren't doing this, weren't doing the Cove and that, if you weren't a lighthouse keeper, what would you rather be,
Gluey or someone. Always like a gluey or some kind of hobo.
Well, yeah, there is that, you know what I mean? I know you were applying for those positions for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, they always turn me down.
Well, I've got a job for you. I've got a place you could
nice.
fit in perfectly, right?
Ooh.
I think you're a physical perfect match for this. Right?
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Right. This is the surprising culture of the Ethiopian Bodi tribe.
Right. This is not what I imagined.
Yeah. Well, imagine your reaction when you find yourself a tribe where big is definitely beautiful.
Ooh.
Right. Welcome to the Ethiopian Bodi tribe, where men compete to be the fattest in the village. Now this is horrible, by drinking a concoction which they claim is a mixture of blood and milk, while living in isolation for 6 months.
Well, they're just supping that, trying to get as fat as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Now, do you want to see a couple of Bodi tribesmen?
Yeah. Oh, the proper whoppers.
It's the one on the left that makes me laugh. I'm like, oh, there you go, kid. That's it.
Yeah, I've got
when you came back from fucking Thailand.
Look at belly on that. He's had to lay down, hasn't he? Wow.
Well, what I find funny about this, right, there's all these people, right, I'll go further on for this first, right. So Slim might be the big out of deal elsewhere, but Ethiopia's Bodi or Mien tribe, the bigger the better is the case. The Bodi people live in a remote corner of Ethiopia's Omo Valley, and is home to young men who do all it takes to be crowned the fattest man. And here's how it works. Young men are selected and fed special meals and concoctions for 6 months, and after that emerge to show off their newly engorged physiques and for a winner to be chosen. The champion fat man is then fated as a hero for the rest of his life.
Oh.
Right? The food comes in the form of cow's milk and blood mixture, served regularly to the men by women from the village. The cows are sacred to the Bodi tribe, so they are not killed for the purpose of the ritual. The blood is drawn by making a hole in a vein with a spear or an axe, and after that they close it with clay.
Ew.
But because of the scorching temperatures, the men have to drink the 2-litre bowl of milk and blood quickly before it coagulates.
Oh, God.
But not everyone can handle drinking so much at speed, and they puke up. The ones who do are disqualified. So it's the guy who can keep it down. On D-Day, the men design their bodies with clay and ashes before emerging from their huts for the walk to the spot where the ceremony will take place. This long walk seems tortuous, no thanks to the excess weight gained and protruding stomach.
Big wobbly, milky blood belly.
So the ceremony involves spending long hours walking in a circle around a sacred tree, watched by the other men and helped by women who ply them with alcohol and wipe away their sweat. So this again...
this could be alright.
Yeah. Once the fattest man has been chosen, the ceremony ends with the slaughter of a cow using a big sacred stone.
Oh,
fucking hell! An hour later, it's dead.
Yeah. Oh.
Village elders will then inspect the stomach and the blood to find out the winner's future will be a bright one or not. After the ceremony, the men's lives return to normal and most lose their enormous bellies after a few weeks of eating sparingly. And a few weeks later, the next generation of competitively fat Bodi men will be chosen, and the cycle repeats.
Wow, that is fascinating.
It's absolutely mad, isn't it? You know what I mean? So it's like they say that Bodi's traditional way of life is under threat from one reason or another. You know? And there's about 300,000 of them in this area. And but they reckon it could be one of these things that is fades into nothingness, so it's worth studying those things.
It's well, you know, it's ace that stuff like that is still happening on Earth, you know. It's funny, just so bizarre that it's happening.
It happens all in America. This is all it is. That's what happens.
It's just so like modern, isn't it? But I just love that old tradition. He's just going through that. It's gone on for thousands of years, or hopefully thousands of years. I made it up last week, mate.
Yeah, some of it's good and some of it's bad. I think sometimes, you know, we revere things as certain ceremonies. We think they're important, and you know we should talk. Oh, we've got to really respect these ceremonies of the ancients, kind of thing. Some of it, I think, is they've lost the way.
Yeah,
and I think some cultures have just. It's like we talked about the cargo cults, where they used to revere Prince Philip as a king, and now King Charles as a god. Yeah. And these are people who've kind of lost the way, sadly, a little bit. You know, another one that I've heard about is an African tribe. And this is true, this one. And they believe that the only way that you can actually have active seed within you to have babies is if that seed is put into you by an older bloke.
Oh, what? Oh, so you get... Oh.
So what happens is the younger men of the village, one by one, usually take away by like...
custard bite.
They're taken away into bushes for months, right? By an uncle kind of thing, right? And absolutely bummed daft, right? For this time where he's basically putting as much spunk in him as possible.
I'm doing it for your kids.
Yes, I don't want to do this.
Cheers, Grandad.
I don't want to, but I'm absolutely turgid. Now touch your toes, Jeff. Oh, bloody hell.
Oh, that's not right, is it at all?
No.
Someone needs to go with a medical book there. Say, wait a minute. Have a read, look.
But no, he's a fucking... that's wrong-headedness. It's not right, it's wrong.
It's gone in the wrong direction, like you said.
I mean, don't be wrong. If people want to sort of like have that kind of action for fun, go ahead, you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
but because you don't want to do it, if you think you do it for a reason...
stories to get it done.
That's what you all got. First bloke who decided that, though, goes, I've had an idea.
Give this a go.
If I can pull this one off, it's absolutely champion.
Right, all your line up. A month.
So this is the thing. So it's not always right. I mean, I looked up the life expectancy of the Bodi tribe, and not just because of this practice. I don't think it is this practice. The life's about 30.
Whoa!
So, you know, we're looking at tribal practices and things where people do things and lifestyles. It's because of the child mortality. They'll probably lose sort of most of the children when they're really, really young for one reason or another, which is super sad. But that's just sort of, that is life. But, you know, we say, oh, wow, these wonderful tribes, see how they survive and do things. Isn't it great? Let's revere this. Sometimes we are revering these older ways, but the chances are you say, well, I want to live like that, but you're not willing to give up the idea. Or you're not willing to have like 9 kids and lose 5 of them. You know, that's sometimes the truth.
Modernisation can be quite good for a tribe like that, can
it? So
you want to live past 30.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's not always easy. Hey, but fair play to them.
Yeah, fair play.
Have your fun where you can.
Other tribe does, doesn't it? Bloody hell.
Now, what I need to do is we need to ask people then. So we're going to be hopefully back for episode 100. We're not going to do anything particularly amazing about it because time-wise, I'm not going to. It's not all we're going to do is we're going to have an 100th episode. That's going to be quite good fun. Maybe a bit.
The cove is enough, kid.
The cove's enough, isn't it? You know what I mean? So that's pretty good. So if anyone has got in touch, there's more details at the end of the show. Have a listen through. You can listen to our sort of socials and stuff like that. Always wonderful to listen to you from. Always wonderful to hear from you guys. So do get in touch. But until then, I need to hear a little bit more about. I've forgotten his name now. Your monkey friend.
Oh yeah, monkey. Oh, Jizz and Monkey Star.
I need to hear more about Jizz and Monkey Star.
Don't you worry. It might take us a month. Yeah, get in them bushes. I'll fill you, kid. I'll fill you in.
Jizz and Monkey Starfish. So it's going to be a big bye-bye from Matt.
It's a bigger bye-bye from Benny. Take care, guys. Let's get out of this trumpy room.
There are 3 ways you may contact Kraken Cove. Either by email at krakencovepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at Kraken Cove, or Instagram at Kraken Cove Pod. Ha ha!